Hi everybody, today we are talking about how to get over imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a feeling that you're inadequate or that you aren't a high achiever even when you are. And for a lot of people, it can cause a lot of anxiety. It can even turn a high performer into an underperformer. This channel is all about giving advice that will help improve your life, so let me give my thoughts on imposter syndrome so that it bothers you less. We're going to break imposter syndrome into two parts which are both equally important. The first part is what to do in the moment when you're feeling overwhelmed. In these situations, it's hard to do internal work to find a permanent fix to imposter syndrome, so we'll focus on mitigating the feelings of imposter syndrome so that you can move on through your day and still be productive and not let it tank your performance too much. And later, we'll talk about the second part, which I alluded to a little bit already, which is how to reflect on ourselves, how to find the sources of imposter syndrome, where exactly is it coming from, and properly fix it so that we don't have to deal with it anymore. Let's talk about what to do in the moment. This is more of a list of things that you can do, so this comes in no particular order, and hopefully one of these things will fit into your lifestyle or how you work. The first thing that I would do is I would take a step away from work. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel like you don't have the time to deal with your emotions, then it's better to put it on the back burner for now and try to focus on the things that are happening throughout your day. But before putting these emotions to the side, you have to first step away from things. You just need to remove yourself from the pressured environment for just a few minutes. Do what you have to do to get out of that environment. Say that you have to use the bathroom, say that you just have to go for a walk, and give yourself time away from that heightened emotioned environment. If you're in the office, you can go and get some water at the water fountain. If you're at home, take a walk outside or go to a different part of your house. Being in the same room that has whatever you're working on, whether it be a laptop or notebook, is just going to make your brain keep on thinking about what you have to do. Another thing to do is to ask yourself what would realistically happen if you did fail the task. It's important to understand that the world isn't going to fall apart or explode if you fail. Life will go on and you will have another chance. In fact, you'll have plenty of chances to succeed. I find that a lot of the times our brains play tricks on us. At one point in our lives, we thought that high school tests was super important, or even a job interview was important. And don't get me wrong, they are somewhat important. But after the 500th grade that you get, or the 500th job that you applied for, you not only get desensitized to doing the same thing and failing and thinking that it's not so bad, but you also realize that in the grand scheme of things, you realize that these experiences are a blip in the middle of your timeline. If I'm being completely honest, I wasn't the best in school. In fact, I wasn't the best in a lot of the normal metrics. I was an average student, I was an average athlete, I was an average kid who just played video games. And of course, this means that I wasn't really exceptional at anything that I did, which also meant that I failed at a lot of stuff. And what I learned from all my failures was that the scary fear that I thought was going to happen never happened. So from a person who fails a lot to a person who may fail in the future, don't be afraid of failure. Even if you're an average person like me, your failed experiences are going to be the things that help you learn a lot faster. And it's the way that people go from average people to exceptional people. Very few people start at the top, and what people don't tell you in social media or anyone else who's made millions of dollars is how hard their life was and how many failures they had. Even people like Gary Vee and Alex Hormozy, who nonstop say how much they failed, can never explain their story good enough where it actually grasps how much struggles they had. So when you stepped away and you asked yourself this question, or you don't ask yourself this question, let's talk about what to do when you're ready to restart. There's going to be 100 things in your mind that you're going to want to do. Zero in on the next important doable task. Do something that you know you can achieve and can help jumpstart you for the other tasks that you have. It doesn't really matter if the task is small or large, it just needs to be something that's going to get you in your groove. And when you think about this task, your brain is going to want to run away. You're going to be scared, you're going to be fearful, you're going to want to procrastinate. Move the phone, move the video games, move anything that would distract you so that you could really zero in on what you have to do. The next thing to do is to decide if you should ask for help. Coworkers, teachers, other students, friends, family, they all exist to help you, or at least most of them do. We can't do everything by ourselves in the world. That's just not how life works. And we're able to work more efficiently when we're able to use more than one brain at a time. And I know that for some people, including myself, that it's hard to ask for help sometimes. You want to figure it out, you want to seem independent. So let's set a challenge and make it easier for you to ask. I want you to give yourself a certain amount of time and time block yourself. put a timer on, and if that timer goes off and you didn't figure it out yet and you also don't have any leads or any direction, then ask for help. If you didn't figure it out but you do have a lead, then rinse and repeat. Put another time block yourself again, give yourself a certain amount of time. And if at any point you feel like you're stuck and the timer hasn't gone off, or you've done multiple time block rounds, or you're just feeling defeated, then wave the white flag. When it comes to deadlines, projects, homework, it's more important that you succeed within the time frames. And that doesn't mean that it's not important to figure things out by yourself. You're always free to figure it out yourself, but if you want to do that, then do it after the deadline. That way you can learn without the pressure of feeling like you have to do something a certain way. And surprisingly, I found that when I wanted to learn after a deadline, it wasn't that important anymore. Granted that another deadline came up and I ended up pushing it off to the side, but if something was really important and I really wanted to learn and it was really essential to my growth as a person and improving, then I think I would have been motivated to learn after the deadline. I think if I don't feel that urge, it means that the only reason that I wanted to learn whatever the topic was because there was an ulterior motive for me to learn this thing so that I can complete my project. If you're still having trouble asking for help, even when you wave the white flag, it also helps temporarily if you just blame it on the time restraint. It helps avoid accountability, which I don't really suggest, and it blames external factors. And again, I don't really recommend this, but if it helps you get your tasks done, then do it if you're really feeling pressured and it helps push you to ask for help. And I also get why it's hard to ask for help. You don't want to seem like you're incapable or you don't know what you're doing, and you already probably have those thoughts from having imposter syndrome. But asking for help doesn't make you incapable. In fact, asking for help shows a lot of positive traits. Things like being time efficient or collaborative are things that come across when you ask for help. Asking for help doesn't show you're weak, it shows that you're a strong coworker or a strong student or a strong person and a potential leader. Now you may be thinking this sounds like a stretch. People are going to think I'm weak if I'm asking for help. But I'm here to tell you that's mostly just your fear talking and also some vulnerabilities or insecurities. Let's imagine that you're a manager. The manager that's above you is watching your performance as well as watching how your team performs. In a school sense, you would be the leader of a group that's doing a group project. Do you think that any person that's higher on the totem pole would want the people under them to fail? Absolutely not. Because the truth is that if you fail or if you miss a deadline, it's bad for everyone. It's bad for the company, it's bad for your manager, it's bad for you. Now imagine you're leading someone and you give them a task and it's been 2 weeks since you asked them and they still haven't done it. Wouldn't you just be annoyed that they didn't finish the task already? Now you can blame the person that isn't performing well, or you can realize that this person may also have imposter syndrome and also feel scared to ask questions. And if 2 weeks passed and the person came up to you and finally said that they had a question and that they were scared to ask, you would probably say something along the lines of, you should have asked sooner. Everybody is trying to benefit from productivity, and so if you're not being productive and you're also slowing down other people's workflows, then obviously they're going to want to help you just to speed everything up. So those are most of the thoughts that I had for temporary solutions and what to do in the moment when you're dealing with imposter syndrome. Now let's talk about internal ways that we can use to truly fix imposter syndrome and to increase our confidence. So these are things that you do after you finish your workday, after you pass your deadline, and you have some time to just recover, relax, and breathe. You have two choices. You can either relax all the way until you have another deadline and you deal with the same feelings from imposter syndrome, or you can take a little bit of time to do some internal work and truly fix your imposter syndrome so you don't have to deal with it the next time and the time after that. By working out the issues of your imposter syndrome now, you create a compounding effect that's going to help you throughout your entire life. So the first thing to do is to look at your track record and see what you've done. Notice everything about your history, notice the amount of success you had, notice the amount of failures, and if you're a high performer, you will realize that you've had a lot more successes than failures. In fact, even when you did have those failures, it was followed up by another success because you took that failure and learned from it. Just take a second to take ownership over everything that you've done. Realize how many obstacles you've overcome. It was your project, it was your deadline, and you finished it. And do you know what this means? This means that you have the ability to complete challenges that are in front of you. Whether you failed or not doesn't matter. You can notice that there's a progressing line that shows that you're in a better place than you were 10 years ago. Even if the 10 years were bad and you're actually in a worse spot than you were 10 years ago, I guarantee that it means that you're in the middle of failures that you can learn from now, and the failures that you've dealt with in the past have made you strong and gave you a level of tenacity that isn't seen in other people. So acknowledge everything, acknowledge your history, acknowledge the skills that you've learned, acknowledge the type of potential that you have as a person, because it's there. You have the potential to do amazing things in your life, and you need to make the choice now on if you're going to do something today or if you're going to kick it down the line and do something later on. I'm not going to judge you for which option you decide to choose, but either way, what I'm trying to say is that you're eventually going to deal with it and you're eventually going to improve. So do things on your own pace, but I believe in you. And if you don't want to trust the belief of a stranger on YouTube that you just met or that you subscribed to for a little bit, I want you to believe in yourself. And when you don't believe in yourself, believe in the proof of concept. The proofs of concepts that you've overcome challenges. And when you think about how strong that proof of concept is, you'll start to realize that you're imposter syndrome proof. I also talked about it throughout the video, as well as other videos that I've posted, but don't be afraid of failure. Fear will cause more failures than if you were to try and fail. That phrase is a little confusing, but it's the idea that if we're scared to do every little thing, we'll just continue to sit on the couch or just not take action. And when you think about all the times that you could have done something but you didn't, you could count all those little times and all those little choices as failures. It doesn't mean that it's bad, it just means that you've had plenty of opportunities to improve and you didn't take them. But it doesn't mean that you can't take them in the future. And it definitely doesn't mean that you can't take them right now, because you can. You always have that choice. Now, how do we overcome this fear? Think about what the worst realistic scenario would be. It's easy to think about 1,000 fears, but out of those 1,000 fears, which ones are realistic? Which ones can really happen? If you apply to a college that you don't know you're going to get into, the dean isn't going to write you a personal email on why they're rejecting you. The worst case scenario is that you paid the application fee, you get rejected, and you get a robotic email saying that you didn't get in. Lots of times, the worst realistic case scenario isn't that bad. Now, if you're trying all this advice, it's still not working, and you're just having trouble navigating through all these internal thoughts that are coming through into your head, and your brain is stuck on these scenarios of things that aren't going to happen even if you tell yourself they're not going to happen. Don't worry, let's do an exercise together, and hopefully you'll feel a lot more calm and start to unravel a lot of the internal workings that you have to go through. Close your eyes and think about who you are and where you are. Just focus on the present moment and realize that nothing bad is happening right now. Nothing horribly bad has happened yet. You didn't send an email, you didn't do anything new, and at least at this point, you can feel like there's no anxiety or pressure to do a certain thing. Now mentally try to take these negative thoughts out of your headspace one by one. If you're feeling anxious, try to not feel anxious. If you're overthinking, then just drop the ideas that you're overthinking about. If you're full of pressure, then relax your shoulders and just take time to breathe. Tell yourself that the only person that can add expectations and fear into your life is yourself. We can have a lot of external factors, including people, that can add these pressures into our lives, but you get to choose what goes into your brain at the end of the day. After taking a step back, hopefully you feel more in control of your emotions and your thoughts. And once you feel more stable, then start to think about the challenge that you wanted to tackle again. Now, what if you're not at a job? What if you're not in the corporate setting? Can you still have imposter syndrome in a non-company, non-corporate environment? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. We feel imposter syndrome if we meet a new group of people and we don't feel up to par, when we're in school, when we're looking at job descriptions, when we're looking at college admission standards. The list goes on. There's plenty of scenarios where we feel like we're not up to the task, which is why it's important that we deal with our imposter syndrome right now. I want you to ask yourself, how many experiences and how many opportunities are we going to hold from ourselves that we're going to deny because we don't believe that we're good enough, or we're too scared to start? Once you do start, you will be surprised with the amount of opportunities and happiness that you're going to feel. When you step out into the world and you embrace all that it has to offer, not just the bad and the failures, you'll realize that part of life is pretty amazing. And even if there's an unfortunate reality where you don't have any opportunities and you continue failing, you'll learn so much along the way that even if you don't get the opportunity, again, you'll come out of it having abilities, having tenacity, having knowledge that will help propel you forward. And it'll put you in a better place, a much, much better place than if you didn't try it all. Anyways, that's all I had to say for the topic. If you like this video, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe. If you're still having issues with imposter syndrome and would like my help, you can always schedule a live coaching session with me. There will be a link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching my video. As always, keep improving, stay productive, and I will see you next Friday. Peace.